Your assumption is more real than your reality, because reality is nothing more than the shadow cast by the state you occupy. Every moment of your life, you are standing inside a belief, inside a feeling, inside an inner conviction that quietly shapes the world that appears before your eyes. What you call facts are nothing but the crystallized echoes of the assumptions you entertained long enough to harden into form. If you wish to transform your world, you must begin with the unseen, for the unseen is the cause, and the seen is the effect. People look out at their circumstances and call them reality, but the true reality is always within your imaginal act, your inner decision, your acceptance of a truth unseen by the physical senses. The world outside does not initiate anything, it only responds. It does not command you, it obeys you. And it obeys with perfect fidelity to the assumptions you dare to adopt. Your assumption holds a power that conditions your entire experience. It is not the outer facts that bind you, but the inner conclusions you draw about those facts. You can assume poverty in the midst of wealth, and you will live poor. You can assume failure while opportunity surrounds you, and you will fail. You can assume love in the midst of solitude, and love will find you. You can assume victory while still trembling in weakness, and victory will rise within you. Life bends to the state you occupy, not the words you speak, not the effort you exert, not even the prayers you whisper. It bends to the assumption you have accepted as your truth. The moment you assume something to be real, truly real, emotionally real, sensorially real, it begins to move through the unseen currents of life and rearrange the world to mirror your inner acceptance. The question is never what is happening in my life right now. The question is always, what am I assuming is true about myself? For every man or woman is living inside a self-concept, and that self-concept becomes the script of their life. If you assume you are unlucky, you will meet misfortune in 1,000 ways. If you assume you are blessed, the blessings will come from directions you never anticipated. If you assume you are powerless, life will reflect your helplessness back at you. If you assume you are the operant power, life will reveal its obedience with astonishing precision. Do not look for answers outside. The outside is the child. The inside is the parent. Change the parent and the child must follow. When you dare to assume what your senses deny, when you hold that assumption with feeling, not with timid hope but with bold acceptance, something begins to stir in the depths of your being. Your imagination starts to generate the conditions necessary to fulfill your inner claim. People move, opportunities emerge, paths open, and the world reshapes itself, though you may not see how the threads are woven. The assumption itself is the seed. It does not ask how the harvest will come. It only knows that it must. A seed does not concern itself with the soil's condition. It simply becomes what it is in essence. Your assumption works in the same quiet, certain, inevitable way. It grows beneath the surface of consciousness until the day it breaks into visible form. But many do not. Persist. They assume a new state for a night, perhaps for an hour, and then return to the old feeling of doubt, fear, or insecurity. They check their outer world, and finding no immediate evidence, they abandon the assumption that could have remade their lives. They watch reality as if it were the master and treat assumption as if it were the servant. The truth is the exact opposite. Reality is the obedient servant, following your assumption wherever it leads. Once you understand this, you will stop treating your desires as fragile wishes and begin treating them as inevitable outcomes. You will stop waiting for proof and start generating proof from within. You will stop seeking validation from the outer world and begin granting validation from your inner world. Feel as if your desire is already yours. Not tomorrow, not someday. Now, right now. The only moment in which creation ever truly occurs is the present moment. When you assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you collapse the distance between I want and I am. And once that distance collapses, reality has no choice but to align with your new identity. For identity is the root of all manifestation. You do not attract what you want. You attract what you are conscious of being. If you are conscious of being successful, success gravitates toward you. If you are conscious of being loved, love surrounds you. If you are conscious of being chosen, valued, important, or wealthy, you will find the world reflecting these truths. The world is a mirror held up to your inner conversation. Your senses will try to convince you that the inner world is an illusion and the outer world is the truth. But the senses lie because they can only show you the aftermath of consciousness, never its cause. They show you what has been accepted, not what is possible. They reveal what you believed yesterday, not what you can become today. Do not let the senses dictate to you what is possible. Do not let circumstances write the story of your destiny. Rise to a higher state by assuming the feeling of your ideal. Claim it boldly. Declare it within yourself. Let the assumptions saturate your mind, your emotions, your imagination. Let it possess you so fully that the old state feels foreign, like a dream you no longer belong to. When your assumption becomes natural, creation is complete. The moment you feel your desire is something normal, something familiar, something that fits you, it begins to externalize. That is the secret. Not forcing, not demanding, not worrying, simply feeling from the end. Living as though it is already so. Moving through your day with the quiet inner confidence of one who knows the outcome. When you walk with that inner knowing, the world cannot resist you. It must bend, it must rearrange, it must deliver. Life becomes cooperative, harmonious, responsive. People who once ignored you suddenly offer opportunities. Circumstances that seemed impossible become unavoidable blessings. What you assumed in silence announces itself loudly in the world of form. Your reality today might shout lack, limitation, or struggle, but do not listen. Your assumption is the louder truth if you dare to believe it. Ignore the present appearance. The present appearance is old news, the delayed echo of yesterday's state. If you wish to know what your next months will look like, examine what you are assuming right now. If you want to know what your next year will bring, examine the state you are accepting as your truth this very moment. Every assumption persisted in becomes your future. Persist not in what is, but in what can be. Persist not in the facts, but in the truth you choose to occupy. Persist not in your fears, but in your fulfillment. The outer world is malleable, fluid, obedient. It has no will of its own. It only reflects the inner world you dare to embrace. So choose your assumptions with care. Choose your assumptions with courage. Choose them with the authority of one who knows that consciousness is the only creative power in existence. Assume the best about yourself. Assume the best about your life. Assume the best about your destiny. Walk in the feeling of that assumption day after day, night after night, until it becomes your natural home. And when it does, the world will have no choice but to acknowledge it, for your assumption is more real than your reality, and reality must eventually catch up to the truth you hold within. Your assumption is more real than your reality, because assumption is the living essence of creation, while reality is only its echo. When you assume a state, you are not merely imagining. You are entering a dimension of being that already exists in potential. You are stepping into a version of yourself that is waiting to be expressed. The moment you occupy that inner version, the world around you begins a subtle, relentless reorganization. Things shift, people shift, events shift, all to match the inner truth you have accepted. It does not matter whether the assumption seems impossible, unreasonable, or contrary to every visible fact. The visible facts have no authority over the unseen forces that shape them. The unseen is always the cause. And once you align with a new cause, the effects must follow as faithfully as night follows day. There are countless individuals who spend their entire lives wrestling with circumstances because they never discover the simple truth that consciousness is the only creative power. They believe the world is happening to them, not realizing that they are happening to the world. They look to their environment for confirmation, waiting for signs before they dare to believe. But the signs do not come first. The belief comes first. The assumption comes first. The acceptance of the end comes first. Only then do the signs appear. Reverse this order and you will struggle. Honor the correct order and life becomes effortless. When you take hold of an assumption with confidence, when you feel it deep, apply and allow it to saturate your inner world, you activate a law that cannot fail, a principle as eternal as the rising sun. Your imagination is not a daydreaming faculty. It is the workshop of creation. It is the realm where every destiny is formed. When you imagine yourself as something, you are planting a living seed in the fertile soil of consciousness. Do not underestimate the potency of that seed. It may be invisible for a time, it may appear dormant, but beneath the surface it is working, expanding, calling forth the necessary conditions for its expression. You do not need to know how your assumption will come to pass. You do not need to engineer the details. You merely need to remain loyal to the inner feeling of already having what you desire. The details will take care of themselves. The bridge of incidents will unfold without effort, drawing you step by step toward the fulfillment of your assumption. There will be moments when your current reality screams the opposite of your desired state. There will be days when your senses insist that nothing is changing. Do not be deceived. The senses are bound by time. Your assumption is bound by truth. The senses perceive what has already been created. Your assumption determines what will be created next. When you refuse to be swayed by appearances, when you hold firmly to the inner conviction that your desired state is already yours, you rise to a level of mastery where life becomes a mirror of your inner authority. Stand firm in the unseen. Feel the invisible reality as though it were the only reality. Let the world catch up in its own time. Every transformation begins with a single inner movement, assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled. That feeling is the magnetic force that draws the outer world into alignment. Without the feeling, imagination remains a picture. With the feeling, imagination becomes a living state. Enter the state emotionally, sensorially, fully. Hear what you would hear if it were true. See what you would see if it were fulfilled. Touch, taste, and sense the world that would surround you. Let the imaginal act become your dwelling place. The more vivid it becomes in your imagination, the faster it emerges in your reality. There is no need to struggle to maintain the assumption. Effort signals doubt. Effort declares that you are trying to make something happen rather than acting that it is already done. The assumption that feels natural is the one that manifests. Let your ideal state become your natural inner climate. Let it become the air you breathe. Return to it whenever the mind wanders. Refuse to occupy any state that contradicts your desire. You are not a prisoner of mood or circumstance. You are the chooser of states, and the state you choose determines the life you live. You will notice as you persist in your chosen assumption that the world begins to respond in small ways first. A conversation, a coincidence, a subtle shift in mood. These are the early signs of alignment. Do not dismiss them. They are indicators that the unseen is stirring. They are the first ripples of a wave that will eventually reshape your entire life. Remain faithful to the inner knowing and allow these signs to strengthen your conviction. As your conviction grows, the outer world accelerates in its transformation. What begins as a whisper becomes a declaration. What begins as a spark becomes a fire. What begins as an imaginal act becomes a physical event. Persistence is the secret, not force, not effort, persistence, returning again and again to the feeling of the wish fulfilled until it becomes the only reality you acknowledge. When you persist long enough, the assumption is no longer something you are practicing. It becomes something you are. And once it becomes your identity, the world must conform. Identity is destiny expressed. Identity is assumption solidified. Identity is the blueprint from which your world is constructed. Change your identity within, and your world must reflect it without. Continue assuming, even when nothing seems to be happening, even when everything seems still. Stillness is not stagnation. Stillness is gestation. Every seed spends time in darkness before it breaks into the light. Every dream must pass through the invisible realm before it becomes visible. Trust the process, trust the law, trust the assumption you have claimed, for it is more real than the reality you see, and reality must eventually bow to the conviction held in silence within you. Your assumption is the quiet architect shaping every event, every encounter, every so-called coincidence in your life. Long before anything appears in the visible world, it is already alive in the invisible realm of imagination. The unseen is the workshop where every thing is crafted, and the assumption you hold becomes the blueprint that instructs the universe. You may think circumstances appear by chance, that life moves at random, but nothing comes to you except what you have prepared for internally. Even your delays, your breakthroughs, your disappointments, your victories, they all follow the pattern of the state you occupy. Change that inner state, and even the most stubborn outer facts begin to soften and bend. You are never reacting to life. You are reacting to the state you are in. And the moment you shift your assumption, the entire world shifts with you, though it may take time for the physical to reveal what has already occurred in the spiritual. When you assume something with feeling, you summon a new version of yourself. You step into a different awareness, one that vibrates at a different level of certainty, clarity, and confidence. You begin to think differently, move differently, and respond differently. You stop chasing outcomes and start embodying them. You no longer reach for your desire as something far away. You express it as something unfolding through you. This inner shift is the true miracle. The external result is mere lie, the shadow cast by that shift. The shadow cannot resist the light. The physical world cannot resist the inner transformation. The moment you truly believe your new state, the world begins to recognize you as that version. People respond to you as if you have changed, even before they consciously know why. The assumptions you cling to most tightly become the laws of your personal universe. If you constantly assume that others misunderstand you, you will experience misunderstanding everywhere you go. If you assume that life is difficult, you will find obstacles at every corner. If you assume that success comes easily, you will walk through doors that others cannot even see. If you assume that everything works in your favor, you will watch impossible situations rearrange themselves to serve your good. Life always echoes the belief you whisper to yourself when no one is listening. That private inner dialogue is far more powerful than any outer statement you could ever make. What you accept as truth in the silence of your mind becomes the experience you live in the noise of the world. Your assumption is not merely a thought, it is an embodiment. To assume is to accept. To accept is or become. And to become is to reshape the currents of your destiny. Many people try to change their lives while clinging to the same old assumptions, not realizing they are dragging their past into their future. They affirm one thing while assuming another. They speak of abundance while assuming lack. They declare love while assuming rejection. They talk of success while assuming failure. And so their words carry no creative force because the assumption beneath them contradicts the desire above them. The assumption must match the desire. When the inner acceptance aligns with the outer intention, creation becomes effortless. Every time you return to your old assumptions, you resurrect your old life. Every time you persist in your new assumption, you accelerate the birth of a new reality. Persistence is the secret ingredient. Not strain, not effort, not force. Persistence. Returning again and again to the feeling of the wish fulfilled until it becomes your automatic mental posture. The more natural the state feels, the faster it externalizes, and it will feel natural only when you stop checking the outer world for validation. The outer world cannot validate a seed buried beneath the soil. The roots grow long before the sprout appears. Trust the unseen growth. Trust the invisible movement. Trust the assumption long before it becomes visible. And as you walk through life, carry yourself not as the one who is waiting, but as the one who already has. Move with the quiet assurance of fulfillment. Let your inner conversations reflect the end you have chosen. Let your reactions reflect the identity you have assumed. Let your imagination dwell on the richness of the completed desire. Do this not once, but continuously, and watch how life begins to unfold in ways that defy logic and surpass expectation. For the assumption you hold within is not a mere idea. It is the force that rearranges the world, the silent command to which reality must bow. When you begin to live from the assumption of your desired reality, there is a quiet shift inside you, a subtle rearrangement of your inner posture. You no longer look at the world with the eyes of someone waiting for permission. Instead, you walk with the certainty of one who has already received. This inner certainty is not arrogance, it is alignment. It is the recognition that creation begins in imagination and ends in form. Every great accomplishment, every love, every achievement, every breakthrough humanity has ever experienced was first an inner assumption in the mind of someone who refused to bow to appearances. They held the inner image so faithfully that the outer world had no choice but to bow to their vision. You must understand this. The world does not respond to your wishes. It responds to your self-concept. You may pray for change 1,000 times, but if your assumption remains the same, nothing can move. You may speak affirmations all day, but if you speak them as one who doubts, they will fall to the ground without life. You must speak, feel, and imagine from the identity of the one who already possesses the desire. When you assume the state of fulfillment, you feel a wave of calm certainty wash over you because your inner being knows creation is complete. The outer world simply has to catch up. Many believe that change requires struggle, effort, or force, but assumption is effortless when you surrender to it. It requires no strain, no tension, no pushing. It asks only that you relax into the feeling of the wish fulfilled, as though sinking into a warm pool. You do not fight the what. You float. Assumption is the art of floating in the reality you have chosen within. When you float in that feeling consistently, the current of life carries you toward its physical expression with perfect ease. You may not see the movement immediately, but something invisible begins to shift around you. People are inspired, plans are rearranged, opportunities are born, ideas are whispered into your awareness. Everything begins to work together for the fulfillment of the inner state you have adopted. Your imagination might seem like a small thing, a private space only you can see. But in truth, it is the workshop where all your tomorrows are being crafted. What you accept as true in imagination eventually becomes unavoidable in the physical world. Every assumption, whether noble or destructive, whether empowering or limiting, whether intentional or unconscious, carries the same creative potency. If you assume lack, lack grows. If you assume abundance, abundance multiplies. If you assume rejection, rejection finds ways to reach you. If you assume love, the world lights up with affection wherever you go. This is the law of consciousness, and you are the one who directs it. But why? For you must discipline your inner conversations. For your inner speech reveals the assumptions you truly hold. You may say outwardly, I know I will succeed, but if within yourself you whisper, what if I fail? What if nothing changes? Then your inner assumption contradicts your outer words, and the inner always wins, not because it is more powerful, but because it is the source. If you wish to change your world, change the tone of your inner speech. Make it gentle, confident, assured. Speak to yourself as if the result is already guaranteed, as if the path is already cleared, as if the outcome is already secured. When your inner conversations match your desired assumption, creation accelerates with remarkable speed. Do not underestimate the power of remaining loyal to an unseen reality. Many can assume a new state for a moment, few can remain faithful when the senses show the opposite. But fidelity to the unseen is the secret of all great transformation. If you can remain loyal to the assumption of your fulfilled desire, even when the evidence mocks you, even when circumstances contradict you, even when logic argues against you, then you are standing in the position of true creative mastery. For the world will eventually conform. It must. It is law. It cannot resist the inner state that you consistently occupy. And as you persist, something beautiful begins to happen. You start to feel a shift in your identity. Not a small emotional reaction, but a deep inner movement. You begin to sense that you are no longer the person who longs for the desire. You are the person who lives from it. You speak differently. You walk differently. You think differently. You respond to life differently. This inner transformation is the true manifestation. The outer world is simply the echo. Once you have changed within, the echo must change without. Every assumption you entertain becomes a silent command to the universe, a quiet instruction that reality cannot ignore. Even when nothing seems to be happening, even when life appears unchanged, the assumption is already at work beneath the surface. You may not see the roots growing, but they are. You may not hear the movement, but it is there. Every thought you feel into, every inner dialogue you repeat, every scene you revisit in imagination is carving a path that the outer world must eventually walk upon. What you assume about yourself each morning is far more powerful than anything the world tries to convince you of throughout the day. The world can only present to you the consequences of your inner acceptance, never the cause. And because you are the cause, you are free to select any state and occupy it at will. There is nothing more liberating than realizing that you are not bound by what is happening outside of you. The facts may scream one thing, but your inner world can declare something entirely different. And when the inner declaration is held with faith, feeling, and persistence, the so-called facts must eventually surrender. But this persistence is not a struggle. It is a quiet loyalty to your chosen state. It is the willingness to return again and again to the feeling of your desire fulfilled, especially in moments when life tempts you to doubt. Every time you return to that feeling, you strengthen the bridge between assumption and manifestation. You become less reactive to the world and more aware of your power over it. You stop waiting for something to change and begin living from the change itself. The difference between wanting and assuming is the difference between longing and creating. Wanting keeps your desire at a distance. Assuming brings it into the now. Wanting says someday. Assuming says it is done. Wanting leaves you as an observer of life. Assuming places you as the operant power within life. When you assume, you step into the identity of the person who already possesses your desired state, and soon the behaviors, thoughts, emotional responses, and external conditions align with that identity. And you may notice that people begin to treat you differently without you saying a word. Circumstances rearrange themselves in subtle and sometimes dramatic ways. Opportunities that once seemed far away suddenly become inevitable. as though they were always meant for you. There will be times when your senses rebel, moments when doubt whispers that nothing is changing. But understand this, the senses can only interpret the past, never the present creation. They can only reflect what you previously believed, not what you are choosing to believe now. When doubt comes, do not fight it. Simply return to the feeling of the wish fulfilled, like returning to a familiar home. Your assumption should feel like a soft cloak that you wrap around yourself, one that comforts you, empowers you, and reminds you of who you have chosen to be. And as you wear that cloak consistently, life begins to mirror the identity you have embraced. Your assumption does not require perfect technique, it requires sincerity. Thank you, it requires that you inwardly accept the truth of your desire with ease, not strain. A simple imaginal scene, repeated until it feels natural, is enough to transform your life. A single inner conversation held with conviction can rewrite the script of your days. You do not need hours of meditation or endless effort. You need only the willingness to feel your desire as already realized. That feeling is the creative act. That feeling is the seed of your future. Once planted, it must grow, for feeling is the law, and assumption is the soil in which the law operates. Some will claim that life is unpredictable, that fate is fixed, that circumstances are uncontrollable. But those who understand assumption know that nothing is fixed except by consciousness. Nothing is permanent except the state you continue to occupy. You can leave any unwanted state the moment you decide to stop feeding it with your attention. You can step into any desired state the moment you feel it to be true. The world is not rigid, it is pliable. Time is not a barrier, it is a servant. Conditions are not obstacles, they are reflections. And once you master the art of assumption, you begin to see that every event in your life has been shaped by the shadows of your inner world. You are never waiting on reality. Reality is waiting on you. It waits for you to assume a new version of yourself. It waits for you to declare a new truth. It waits for you to abandon the old identity that no longer serves you. Once you do, the transformation begins. Sometimes it happens quietly, gently, almost imperceptibly. Other times it unfolds with dramatic, unmistakable shifts. But the cause is always the same, a change in assumption, a shift in inner feeling, a decision to believe something new about yourself. And when you finally taste the power of assumption, when you take even one desire from imagination into physical expression, you will never again doubt the creative force within you. You will understand that life is not happening to you, it is happening through you. You will see that every limitation you ever believed in was only an inner story, and that by rewriting the story, you rewrite the world. You will walk with a quiet confidence, not because of what is, but because of what you have assumed to be, and in time what you have assumed will show itself, as it always must, because assumption is the root from which your entire reality grows. Your assumption is the invisible architect shaping the very structure of your days. Long before any event touches your senses, it has already been accepted, nurtured, and formed within you. What you assume becomes the climate of your inner world, and that inner climate determines the harvest you inevitably meet in the outer world. If you assume insecurity, the world will give you reasons to doubt yourself. If you assume strength, you will discover opportunities that require courage. If you assume that life favors you, life will unfold in you, a favor even through paths you never anticipated. Nothing comes to you except that which harmonizes with the state you occupy. Nothing remains with you unless it matches the vibration of your assumption. This is why some people repeatedly meet the same patterns, because they continue to dwell in the same assumptions, unaware that they themselves are the source of the repetition. You must learn to step into the state of your fulfilled desire with a kind of sacred stubbornness. The outer world may scream contradiction, but your inner knowing must remain unshaken. The louder the opposition outside, the deeper you must sink into the inner feeling of fulfillment. This is not denial of reality, it is mastery over it. It is the recognition that your assumption is the seed and the outer world is simply the soil. Seeds do not sprout the instant they're planted, yet no gardener doubts their inevitable emergence. So when you assume the feeling of being wealthy, loved, successful, or free, do not wait for immediate proof. The proof is already alive within you. Its manifestation is only a matter of divine timing, shaped by your persistence. Every time you return to the inner feeling, you water the seed. Every time you live from the end, you nourish the roots, and in due season the world will reflect the maturity of what you have held within. The challenge is never the desire itself, but the discipline required to remain faithful to its fulfillment. You must learn to ignore the temporary evidence of the senses. You must learn to walk through your day as if the unseen were more real than the seen. You must speak inwardly from the identity of the one who already has what they want. You must treat the assumption as your new residence, not a hotel you visit occasionally. When you inhabit a state long enough, the world rearranges itself to support your new dwelling. People will shift, events will align, opportunities will appear, and circumstances will reshape themselves with a precision that defies logic. And yet, to the one who understands the law of assumption, the process will feel natural, expected, predictable. There will be moments when the old state tries to pull you back. Memories, fears, past failures, and familiar patterns may reach for your attention. They may whisper that nothing is changing, that the new assumption is too grand, too unrealistic, too far from WHU. There you are. But you must remember that these voices are not prophetic. They are simply remnants of your old identity. They belong to a former version of you, a psychological ghost. A ghost has no power unless you grant it attention. When these old feelings arise, do not wrestle with them. Do not argue with them. Simply return to the inner feeling of fulfillment. Let your new assumption be the anchor that steadies you. Let it be the place you retreat to whenever doubt attempts to reclaim you. This inner retreat is not escapism. It is self-creation. Persist long enough, and the assumption will crystallize so deeply that the outer world no longer has the authority to disturb you. You will begin to walk through life with a quiet certainty, a calm confidence, a silent power that others will feel without knowing its source. You will speak and think from a new awareness of who you are and what you command, and the world will follow your inner script, for it has no other choice. Your assumptions, once accepted as reality, generate the conditions that express them. Everything is shaped from within first, then revealed without. And once you grasp this, you stop chasing results and begin cultivating inner states. You stop fighting circumstances and begin assuming identities. You stop begging life to change and begin directing life through your inner acceptance. When you understand that assumption is creation, you no longer wait for permission to live your desire. You become the permission. You no longer ask whether something is possible. You declare its possibility by becoming conscious of being the one who already has it. This shift in consciousness is the real miracle. The manifestation that follows is merely the echo. And as you continue to practice the art of assumption, you will notice a kind of divine rhythm unfolding in your world. Delays will not discourage you because you will know that the outcome is already secured. Obstacles will not intimidate you because you will recognize them as illusions dissolving under the power of your inner conviction. Even the appearances that once frightened you will become predictable stages in a process you now understand. And so you must choose in this very moment who you are going to be. Not tomorrow, not when the evidence appears, not when life becomes easier or clearer, but now, while everything in your outer world may still contradict the truth you have claimed within. For the only true courage a person ever needs is the courage to believe in the unseen more than the seen. to honor the inner voice above the outer noise, to trust the invisible blueprint rather than the temporary scaffolding of circumstance. If you dare to persist in the assumption that uplifts you, strengthens you, expands you, and aligns with the life you truly desire, then the world will eventually bow to that assumption. It must, because it has no power except the power you give it. Let this be the turning point where you stop waiting for reality to change before you change your mind. Let this be the moment you decide that your inner state is the only authority in your life. Let this be the moment you stop repeating the story that has held you prisoner and begin affirming the story that sets you free. Your assumption is the seed of every miracle you will ever experience. Your assumption is the blueprint from which your destiny will be drawn. Your assumption is the quiet whisper of creation shaping the world in your image. So step boldly into the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Walk as the person you have declared yourself to be. Live from your end as naturally as you breathe. And as you do, watch reality dissolve, rearrange, and rebuild itself with astonishing accuracy to match the vision you have held within. For when you finally understand that your assumption is more real than your reality, you will never again bow to circumstances. You will command them. And life in its perfect obedience will answer.